been the riverbed. Stones with meticulously carved illustrations on them. An expert in this field stated, "I believe that the discovery of the stones of Ica is the most important archaeological find of this century. They represent visible proof that civilizations about which we previously knew nothing existed thousands of years ago." These stones illustrate the course of open-heart surgery. The doctor and the intern administer the anesthesia. On the right, the doctor bends over the patient. The operation begins. The doctor on the left has opened the thorax. While the doctor ties off the arteries, he is handed more instruments. Above left, the doctor's hands holding the heart. Notice the detail with which the heart was illustrated that long ago. We know of successful skull operations which took place thousands of years ago. This skull is 4,000 years old, proof that this kind of surgery took place, like this stone of Ica. Some of the other illustrations on the stones are just as amazing. Dinosaurs, world maps, a man with a magnifying glass, a man with a telescope 3,000 years ago. Our telescope was invented only 400 years ago. If you and I could accept the theory that beings from outer space intervened with humans, could it have been to give us technology, to supply us with information from a higher culture? This is the ancient Mayan city of Lubantun. It was here that only a few years ago was found a most beautiful and mystifying object. A skull made of purest mountain crystal. The skull is cut from a single piece of crystal, yet there are no visible traces of tooling, even viewed under a high-powered microscope. We don't know its exact age. It could be 3, maybe 5,000 years old. Many say it was from the ancient astronauts or inspired by them. I flew to Kitchener, Ontario to take a personal look at the crystal skull and to meet its owner, Miss Anna Mitchell-Hedges. We've used the modern airplane to come and see something very ancient. Crystal skull, it's ominous, it's awesome. Has the skull brought goodness or badness to people?
One girl from Australia came to see it at Folly Castle, and she laughed at it when my father was giving a lecture, and my father was very angry at the time, so he closed the box, and he wouldn't lecture on it anymore, because he has strong belief in the crystal skull that has more power than any gods that we have. And months later, 2 young Australian came, and they asked to see the crystal skull. So we knew that somebody must have told them. And I called my father in, and he said, "Well, why do you want to see it?" I said, "Well, we have a special reason we like to see it, because the girl that laughed at it about 3 months ago told us on her dying bed to come to see the crystal skull, but please do not laugh at it." She was sure that her death was due because she laughed at the crystal skull.
You found it?
Yes, I found it.
Your father was an archaeologist?
Yes.
And he was doing the diggings in that area?
In that area.
And you were there as a child?
I was with him.
As a child?
As a child, 10 years of age. My father said this is where the Maya started from. And after years of clearing the ground there and lifting stones, which are huge stones, I had to take 2 people to lift them and to place them so they wouldn't, nobody would have an accident with them. And I saw something shining, and the sun was showing on it. And I got the Maya people to help me to clear this ground. And of course we found the top of the crystal, the head. And 3 months later, we found the jaw. The theater where we found the crystal skull was 8 square miles.
My goodness. How many people would collect in an 8 square mile theater?
Oh, thousands of people. Thousands.
My gosh. I'm trying to put myself back into time and space, back to when the skull was used for religious ceremonies. Can you describe to me how it was used, who used it, where it was used?
Well, for instance, it is written down on stones, carved in stones there, that this was used by the high priest of the Maya for willing death or to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly for an old witch doctor or wise man, medicine man, he was getting too old to perform his work. A young man was chosen who had belief in become a medicine man, and both were laid in front of the altar, and the high priest would perform the ceremony, and the knowledge of the old man would go all into the young boy,
Mm-hmm.
and the old man then would pass away peacefully, and this young boy would get up as a man, knowledgeable and ready to perform the same ceremony as the old man did.
Can you tell me what kind of testing was done on the skull to authenticate it?
It's been examined in San Francisco for 6 years.
And what did they find?
They found that no tool has ever touched it. And
No tool has ever touched it?
No tool. It's all hand done. They rubbed it down with hot sand and different herbs. And it took 5 generations to rub down. But it had to be the same family from 5 generations, religious.
5 religious generations of families.
Yes.
Their whole function was to make this skull?
All done by hand.
Yes. And rubbed by sand and by
By
herbs?
sand and herbs. Hot sand.
And about how many years would you say?
150 years to rub down.
Continuously.
To get it perfect.
But the information that the ability to make this skull was known by the Mayans and not by the ancient astronauts?
Yes, I would believe an astronaut has a lot to do with it, but Maya and Inca, which are more astronaut.
Could you explain that a little bit more? Could you just give me a little more detail about what you mean by the astronaut and the...
Well, we know that people have come to this earth before we have.
Mm-hmm.
And they were definitely astronauts, weren't they?
I
This is my belief, and this is the Maya belief.
I see. We look up, stretch our arms to the skies, seeking the gods, as man has done since he first stood erect. We worship beings from the heavens, beings with wings. Somehow, to humans, wings are almost synonymous with divinity. Christian angels, Ezekiel's wheel, the ancient winged god Garuda of Thailand.